Hello, good evening, welcome to your Friday night Rabble here on the Rangers Rabble podcast. For a change, plenty to talk about, but please do get your comments. I can never say this word properly. Thoughts, feelings in the comment section, and I will bring up as many as I possibly can. I am joined tonight by a man wearing the most beautiful gilet I have ever seen. Wilf Marshall. Wilf, how are you?
I'm very well, Martin. A wee bit warm sitting in the house in a gilet, but I thought I would show it off, seeing as I purchased it from the Rabble Island store, online store, which the supplier actually works supply stuff from quite close to me, so I went to pick it up, which was.
So I have to ask, nothing to do with advertising or anything, but what's the quality like?
Very, very good, very good quality, really good quality. The stitching on the fantastic. A lot of these things, when you see the embroidered, the back of the embroideries through the lining, it's not through the lining is on top of it. So yeah, it's not likely to unpick. So yeah, very, very nice.
Well, there you go. See, all the best of gear for Rabble Island, whatever that is, link in the description. Iain, how are you?
I'm really good. I'm just glad we didn't see Wilf take that gilet off because we saw his sweat marks earlier, didn't we? You know. But no, I was asking him just before we came on live. It looks really good quality, and to be honest, I like a wee gilet. You know that. And I'll maybe go and get one, or maybe prompt at Mrs. T's way for a wee Chrissy Prezi, you know. But anyway, I'm doing really good, Martin. Thanks. And it was good. I'm glad to be on with the both originals. What a podcast that was earlier in the week, by the way. You know, fantastic.
I'm still traumatized after watching that.
It kind of freaked me out. It looked like there was 4 of you, or two each of you on the pod. But it was good fun, and it was a good idea. Incidentally, who's taking credit for that? Was that you, Martin?
Yeah, bad idea. I
liked it. It was good.
I had a mullet. The very first show, I had a mullet, back mullet. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, that haircut you had wasn't a good idea, but the what do you call it? The show was good.
Oh.
Aldo, I think we're fairly safe when I wash it because it's not Admiral, it's not cast oil.
It's not Admiral.
I think we should be all right. Remember them? Remember the Admiral kits? How bad were they?
Bring back slick back Martin. That's really difficult to say. Absolutely not. I was in shock when we done that for the members that watching the original Rabble video because 9 days ago was our 4th birthday. So.
But do you know what? The general comments were bang on because Wilf pretty much in his delivery and how he looks hasn't changed a bit. But you've come on leaps and bounds. It was incredible.
What you're saying is that Wilf hasn't got any better. Is that what you're saying?
No, but you know, he's good from the beginning. He's good now, I think. You know, but you were atrocious, but now you're great.
He's tried to save himself there, Wilf. He's tried to save
himself. Sorry, I know where he lives. Don't worry.
Right, okay, well, look, we're here to talk about Rangers, obviously. It's not the afternoon Rabble, so we shall get stuck straight into it. Like I say, please get your comments in, folks, and let us know your thoughts on what we're talking about. Or if you want to take it, and this is what I love about the Rabble, if you want to take it in a completely different direction, then go for it, and we'll take it in. I've got 2 really old guys on me tonight, so take it as far back as you want. Take it as far back as you want. Yeah, I know. What a panel we've got. What a Gallant. I've got to have words with Gallant. I don't know why, but he'll do something in the comments tonight. I'll have to have words with him. Right, well, it was the press conference day because guess what? Rangers are playing tomorrow.
Absolutely buzzing for it, Martin.
Oh, do you know, and that's funny. I was saying this during the international break. I think it was on one of the afternoon Rabbles, or it might have been a member show. I can't remember. Even though it's been a poor start to the season, even though we're 9 points behind Celtic, and when the 3rd international break came up, I actually says to myself, right, I've got a couple of weeks without Rangers ruining my weekend. What did I miss, Rangers?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's. I mean, okay, we obviously were all at the women's Old Firm game last Sunday, so that kind of breaks it up a little bit, you know, because it's still Rangers, but it's not the same without the men's first team. And it's the fact that in the last 2 or 3 seasons, there's no news when they're on an international break. There's absolutely nothing comes out of the club. I mean, for a while, you know, not that many years ago, there was news leaking every day. or every other day there was something to talk about. But now it's radio silence. We didn't even hear about the Motherwell friendly on, was it the Monday or the Tuesday? The Tuesday. We didn't hear about that till the weekend. You know what I mean? So we didn't even know about that for 3 or 4 days. You know what I mean? Everything was very, very quiet. So it's absolutely brilliant to have them back. The press conference was what the press conference always is, just basically the manager throwing a straight bat at the same stupid questions from the same stupid journalists. There's one in particular who really grinds my gears, but I won't mention Rahman by name.
I was actually going to ask you if it was him, because it's...
Of course, it's him. I mean, he asks the most ridiculous questions. And I'm sure he goes into these press conferences with one question. And if somebody else asks it, he asks his question anyway. You know what I mean? They should just let him go first and get his question out of the way, because he can only go in with one. Mm-hmm. Because he always asks what somebody else has asked. I mean, case in point today, the second part of the press conference they dropped at 7:00. They asked him about the January transfer window. And he said, well, I don't know, we're having a meeting in the next few days about the budget. So will you be bringing in loan players? He said, well, what have you just told you? I don't know. You know what I mean? Just ludicrous. Just absolutely ludicrous. It's no wonder people don't buy papers anymore.
Mm-hmm. Or watch STV. STV.
Right, so is it?
I'm sure it's STV he's with.
Yeah, it's STV. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's jump into it then, Ian, and we'll start off with the obvious. Casen Vero pretty much looks like that's him gone. It seems as if that's him out for the season. The manager says he's got to discuss with Feyenoord about rehab, etc. We just can't catch a break.
We can't catch a break, and we're just talking about the same stuff week after week on the pod, the same stuff at the press conferences. And if you watch the incident back, in fact, Martin, I think you showed it about 10 minutes after it happened on whatever pod you were on, and it looked fairly inconspicuous. It looked like nothing. You know what I mean? He just kind of, you saw his studs were caught in the ground, and he turned on his tendon. You can see, that as Brian said, the dreaded 3-letter word ACL. You know what I mean? And to be fair, I think the manager commented today that there's a bit of a disagreement of opinions on how good or how bad the injury is, and where it in particular it's pertaining to. So I think, what a loss that is for us, because he really looked the part and was growing in strength, and his performances were getting better. And albeit, the manager could have maybe used him a wee bit more, but it's just typical of our luck, isn't it? We get someone that looks the part, can play at a decent level in numerous positions, and he's out injured now, which looks like to be, correct me if I'm wrong, for maybe the rest of the season. Is that what we're looking at here? Was there a timeline put on it, or has there not been a timeline put on it yet, Wilf?
From what the manager said today, there's not been a timeline put on it, because, as you say, there's a difference of opinion of what the injury actually is. He says it's definitely a knee injury, because he was pressed on that point. He says it's definitely a knee injury, and I believe that's Kasa's third series knee injury, and he's only still a kid. I mean, that's not catching a break at all. So obviously, once he sees a specialist or the surgeon or whatever in the next few days, they'll find out how bad it is. But it sounds like before we're even talking to Feyenoord about the best course of rehab, they obviously know it's bad. I mean, if he's had previous knee injuries, he must know himself it's a bad one. I mean, the boy was
it's looking like before he even gets a decent run in the team, that's him back home, and Rangers are a distant memory for him and for us.
Well, you say that, but it's not necessarily, because we've still got the option to buy, and we're not going to go in and buy a player who's injured. Now, there's nothing to say that if he get, if it is, say it's an 8 to 12 weeker, he's maybe back February, March time. He would probably come back to us maybe for a couple of months. Feyenoord might then say take him for another 6 months, and we'll keep the same option there. Whatever we don't know what the option.
That's true. I didn't get the impression, though, as much as no one put a date or a timeline on it, I didn't get the impression that it was an 8 to 12 weeker. I got the impression it might be a bit longer than that.
Again, we don't know. But even say it's a season ender, right? Then it wouldn't be out the realms of possibility. We go to Feyenoord and say, listen, can we get him on loan for another either half season or season on the same terms for the option to buy? Now, I don't even know if there's an amount, because we've never been told an amount for the option to buy. You know, when you with Cortez, well, you know, the option or the obligation, whatever it was £4.5 million. There's been no amount put against Casen.
That's true.
So, you know, it wouldn't be the first time a club had gone to the parent club of a player that got badly injured and said, listen, once he's through his rehab, we'll take him back on loan just to assess him, and then we'll maybe kick him with what we've got. Because what we've seen of him, which isn't a lot, I quite liked what I saw of him.
Yeah, me too.
Do you know what? On that very point, right, I'm going to bring up these two comments. One for Gallant saying Clement hardly ever played Kasa, and for D-Man, no big deal. He's only played a handful of times. Again, this is just my opinion, Ian. I think it's a massive blow for us because I think Kasa showed in several positions that he's extremely good. Pressure doesn't seem to bother him. And I would really have liked to have seen, and going against what I think I maybe put him at right back. But going against that, I would have loved to have seen him and Souttar getting a lot of time together at centre back.
Well, that's why it's a particularly massive blow, Martin, because we've been relying on Balogun, and we're not convinced that Proper's the answer at the moment. So therefore, Casa's role and what he had contributed up to this point was probably going to, you know, gather momentum as the season went on. And I really think with that type of injury, it's, you know, it makes the January window, that puts the pressure on Coppin and Clement in the January window to absolutely get a centre half. Now I know the plan looked to be, you know, we played Kasa, you know, right back, centre half, left back. I mean, he played all three positions, but it's a defender we've lost, and we've got an aging defender. We've got a new one, you know, in the shape of Proper that we're not convinced is any good. And then we've got Souttar, who I'm sure we'll come on to in a minute, who's certainly been pulling up the trees for Scotland and doing extremely well.
Yeah, I mean, the manager said it himself in the press conference. You know, basically we've lost a player for three positions. So as you said, he's played at both full-back positions and he's played at centre-back. So really what you're looking at is bringing in a player who is as versatile as that. And I think the only reason he hasn't played as much as we would expect is the manager's quite loath to leave Tav out, because I think we did buy him to play him at right back. You know what I mean? But
and that's exactly it. Well, that then puts the whole... Do you then sign a guy when I'm listening? The boys are young boys, you say, have got over this injury and come back. But does that now make him injury prone?
Well, three bad knee injuries. If you get one, I mean, you get players like Kemar Roof who get little niggling injuries all the time, right? And they're just injury prone. Right? You'll also get players who get a bad injury but come back from it. This young lad's had three bad injuries, three bad knee injuries. So does that mean his knees are knackered? Does that mean his knees aren't up for it? I mean, having said that, John Souttar had problems with his knees, and then they said that last summer they sorted that, and they seem to have sorted that. I hope I'm not jinxing anything, but you know, they seem to have got over that. You know, he seems to have recovered from whatever it was. They eventually found the root of the problem. I mean, they said they'd done that with Kemar Roof before he left. They found, but that didn't make any difference. He still didn't play. So if Casa's knees can't cope with it, and it did seem quite an innocuous fall, then he maybe is just one of these players who his body just can't hack me in a professional football. Ryan Jack's a case in point. You know, he kept picking up injuries because Ryan Jack would be. I know he's gone to the Turkish second division or whatever it is he's gone, but he would be great for a team even in the SPFL in early, you know, that only played weekends, didn't play in Europe. So somebody of maybe Kilmarnock or Hibs or that sort of level where he's only played.
You know, you're absolutely right. I would feel bad for the boy if he had a Ledley King type career. You know what I mean? So that would be, you know, the guy, he can't. But back in Ledley King's day, it didn't matter so well. It didn't matter as much if you missed training. But nowadays you can't. The game's changed. So it could. I hope it isn't curtains for the boy in terms of his career, because it's not looking good at the moment. But if we've, you know, and we've just got to stay positive about it. I think we've just got to kind of, you know,
as Rangers supporters, let's stay positive about injuries, shall we? Robert Robertson's asking, Martin, what journal were you and Wilf on about Rahman Barwaj?
I mean, Jock Blue makes a comment there. Bring Yefeko back from Exeter. I don't think that's possible because the loan probably doesn't have a recall option.
I don't think we've got a recall option, and they've got an option to buy.
An option to buy him.
So guys, let me throw something into the mix here. Where's Salah?
Salah's not ready.
He's still playing. Yeah. He's still not ready. But
if they ran the rule on him that he's not ready for the first team, has that been a collective decision?
Yes. I think we'll learn a lot about Salah if he plays in a couple of weeks against Queen's Park in the SPFL Thrust Trophy, because Queen's Park are a decent side. So if he plays then and plays well, he might, we might see a little bit about him. That might do him a favour. But there's nothing to say that they'll play him, because it's quite that's a fair jumping level.
That's a good point from Gallon, actually, because I can see Ben Davis will be watching this going, "Oh no, I might have to go back to Ibrox."
But by the way, actually, sorry, just on that point, right? And I think you mentioned it, Ian, so I'll come to you about the fact that Kasa. In fact, it was Wilf that mentioned that he could play in several positions. After I mentioned it, to be fair,
I think we all did.
The manager mentioned it first, right? But we'll not split hairs. Does this change now if it is a serious injury? Does this change Nils Coppin and the manager's thoughts going into January?
It certainly changes the price if that's the case. You know what I mean? So if we're going to look at bringing him over on a more permanent basis, but it absolutely changes the January window, Martin. That's what I was just saying.
I meant like in terms of targets.
Yeah, I mean, we already needed a central defender. So, the argument there is even stronger now. But like I said to you before, and you and I have had this discussion offline quite a few times, not a lot of successful signings are made in January. Not a lot. You think back to guys like Aaron Ramsey and the like, you've got that small little window where agents and players are particularly desperate if they want to move that halfway through the season. I mean, not in all cases, but in a lot of cases, that's been the case. So for that particular type of player to be available in January and be ready and willing to come to Rangers, well, I've done well to find the right person, I think.
Yep, sorry, I was on mute there. Oh, I nearly done it. But just let's flip a positive, Wilf, quickly, because that's been 18 minutes of pure negativity. The manager spoke about John Souttar. I know that you watched every single second of the both Scotland games and you were enthralled by the full 180 minutes, Wilf, and you've still not stopped talking about it, right? But in terms of John Souttar, I'm not letting you come in on that, by the way. You're just taking that and you'll stay silent. In terms of John Souttar, we talk so much about the negatives about players going away in international duty in terms of injuries, in terms of overplaying, etc. Has this actually, or could this actually completely change John Souttar's whole confidence moving forward? Because he's getting plaudits off of Steve Clarke, he's getting plaudits off the manager, he's getting plaudits off of Scotland fans. A Rangers player getting plaudits off of Scotland fans.
Yeah, that's very unusual. But John Souttar, as I've always said, I said it on the afternoon Rabble earlier today, and I've said it previously as well. John Souttar for me is a siege defender.
Yeah.
And we don't generally need a siege defender, not in the if you like the run of the mill games, because teams don't generally attack us. We're almost sitting here complaining that we can't break down teams that play two banks of 5 or two banks of 4 or whatever it is that they do. I mean, I think to caveat what you said and to put you right, I think I've seen 30 seconds of the Scotland game and it was Souttar's ball across to Andy Robertson, who couldn't miss, because I mean, where he got that from, I've got no idea. Although a Hearts supporter that I know did tell me that John Souttar is the only player in Scotland that can play a diagonal ball across the park. And
I didn't know, Wilf, that you spoke to anybody who wasn't a Rangers supporter.
Unfortunately, I live with one that's not a Rangers fan. Although having said that,
don't go there, Martin.
It's not a bad thing, because I see enough of her without actually seeing her at the football every week as well.
No, it's the fact that you put "unfortunately" in front of that. So I do hope that your dear lady's not watching.
She doesn't watch this, and she's downstairs, so she won't hear.
I heard she was a massive fan of me. I thought she really liked me.
Well, she's a big fan of Ian's, to be fair.
Well, most of the women are, to be fair.
She had the pleasure of meeting them previous to the last game at Ibrox, and she was.
To be fair, she was very nice.
Very taken by.
You're certainly punching, but I didn't expect anything otherwise from you.
It's how all the women are so smitten with Iain. I don't get it. Well, what are we?
I don't get it either because they're not in real life, you know. Yeah. Tim Sharp will tell you the disastrous teenage years I had growing up, you know.
I don't even remember my. Yeah, I'm punching as well. Don't get me wrong.
Well, you certainly are.
Yes,
You
yes,
certainly
are. Sorry, Wolf. Carry on.
Oh, I've lost my train of thought now. So you just throw something else at us.
Oh,
he's hot enough already with that gilet on, Martin. You know,
Iain, bubbling.
He's bubbling. Aye, Iain, just on John Souttar, just carrying that on in terms of confidence, in terms of moving forward. Yeah, we done a podcast. Oh, do you know what? It's so annoying. I can't remember anything anymore. If it was a live one on YouTube or it was a members show, I can't remember. But we went through the full squad and I asked the guys, who would you want in your team for the rest of the season to try and help us, you know, dig into the lead that Celtic have got to help us try and win some cups? Do we have the players there that can do it? If we do, who would be in your team? And I made the comment, in fact, you know what? It was just before the Scotland game.
I tell you right now, it was with Stuart and Kenny on the members pod.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was the members pod. And I made the point that I said that I don't think John Souttar, moving forward, is a central defender that we can have if we want to push on and win the league. Like, that was my thoughts on it.
I remember.
And then he goes and does that for Scotland and makes me look kind of stupid. But I still kind of believe that, Iain.
Well, this is the two sides of John Souttar, Martin. So you're not completely incorrect in your assessment there, which incidentally you also said proper would be brilliant. So anything you predict from now on is just like going to be instantly forgotten, you know. But no, listen, Wilf made a really good point there. John Souttar has that last gasp siege defending mentality, and it worked great with Hearts where he was prior to that, which got him his call up to the Scotland scene originally. And it suits him, that whole kind of, John Souttar to the rescue type centre half, you know. But as Wilf also correctly points out,
sorry, Iain, can I just quickly point out that I'm not sitting here saying that I think John Souttar's a bad defender. I think John Souttar's a very, very good defender. Yeah, I'm just talking about the quality that we need moving forward.
Yeah, listen. When teams come to Ibrox and play a low block, John Souttar doesn't get to be that last gasp siege defender that we've talked about already. He has to be the guy that kind of has to keep his concentration and wait for that break that comes down the wing, and then all of a sudden a ball's whipped across, and needs to be goal side of his centre forward. He's guilty of not doing that an awful lot. But in terms of getting his body in front of blocking, you know, the ball, and when the opposing team has got a lot of possession, then you know John Souttar's the man you want in your camp, absolutely. But I've got to say, it was interesting to listen to Clement's take on him yet, because he was talking about how a year ago the John Souttar he saw then compared to the one he sees now is a different man. And he expects a year from now to see an even better finished article. And to be honest, I tend to agree with that. I think John Souttar will get to where he needs to be. And I think when he first came in, I thought he was, you know, I think I saw a comment that I think you've highlighted in the comments there, Martin, about him being potential captain material. I've always thought that. And then we would see some clangers against Celtic, against lesser teams, and we thought, well, maybe not. But then you have to marry in everything else that's been going on around John Souttar. He's not really been playing the right side of defence for his first part of his career, or the correct side of defence for the first part of his career, and then he's pretty much not had a settled pairing, along with a little bit of injury thrown in. Yeah. So we've got to kind of understand that, you know, the potential we see in the boy, is something there that other people that know a lot more about football than us have acknowledged, and we saw him doing it at the very highest level in 2 games. I mean, Poland are no slouches; they're a really good European side. In all honesty, I think. And John Souttar was fantastic.
I'll just say, Iain, I'm leaving you up there so the ladies can look at your face.
Ah, is that what it is? I know, because I'm looking at my face now and it's like weird. You know? But yeah, so yeah, I mean, all things said, I still think John Souttar's on course to be our captain one day, and he's certainly your first starter at the moment for us at the back, I would say.
Well, That's Jock Blues saying, look, Souttar is a natural captain.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Sir Blues saying Souttar can play his part in a good Rangers team. And Martin Sweeney, I have to say, I love Souttar, very underrated. He certainly is captain material, buzzing for the guy, love him. And like I say, well, it's just my own personal opinion. And I genuinely hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And what Ian's saying and what the guys in the comments are saying about Souttar is right.
I think the point that the manager made about Souttar being a better player now than he was a year ago is 100% right, and hopefully he can carry on in that trajectory. We won't have to remember, right? Not only was John Souttar injury prone, as we said earlier, he had all sorts of problems with his knee. Right? He also had a family tragedy last year or the year before?
Yeah, that's right.
He's going to take it out on anybody. You know what I mean? It's that's mentally going to affect anybody. So we sometimes forget that these guys are human beings. You know, they're the same sort of trials and tribulations, and to lose a sibling the way that which is, I believe, what happened in his life, that can't be easy to deal with, particularly when you've got the sort of scrutiny you get as a Rangers player. So if he's managed to get over that and get over the injury at the same time, and again, touching as much wood as I can, the last 6 or 8 months he's been more or less injury free, and he's coming on. I agree with Jock Blue's comment. In a good Rangers team, I think he could be a fantastic player and possibly a potential captain.
And I love the fact that he's Scottish, and I won't hate that. I want more Scots in the Rangers team. I really do.
It's not just more Scots, Mark. We need the very best Scots we can get.
Yes, 100%. I'm going to be starting a new show on the members channel soon, looking at old classic games. So I've been watching a lot of games from, I won't say early or mid 80s, I'll say late 80s, because there wasn't that many classic games for us in the early 80s. But the late 80s and, of course, the 90s. And the one thing I noticed, and I know that Stuart in our chat kind of knocked me down a peg or two, but the amount of Scots that we had in the team when we took apart the English champions, the amount of Scots we had in our team during 9 in a row. And I would just love, and I know that football's changed now and it's a different game and Britain's different, blah, blah, blah. I would just love to see, I'd love to see John Souttar prove me wrong. Not that he has to, because I don't matter, but just prove that his doubters wrong and become a Rangers captain in the future and more Scots to come through.
But Martin, the big difference between then and now, back then there was the 3 foreigners rules. You had to go.
No, I get that. I totally get that.
And then when they got rid of that, because you were paying more money for and more money to in salary to Scottish players, everybody in Scotland went abroad. You know, you started off. I mean, it used to be that Rangers brought in players, started bringing in players from abroad. Then Celtic started doing it. Then to a certain extent, Aberdeen did it. They brought in a lot of Dutchmen. Then everybody started it, and they were bringing in, mediocre foreign players were coming into teams like Falkirk and Dundee United and St Mirren and Hibs and whoever else, right? Who were no better than the Scottish talent that was kicking about in the lower leagues, but they didn't bother take the Scottish talent because the foreigners were cheaper. That was exactly, and that's never reversed. That trend is never reversed. I mean,
it's not Wilf. Yeah, you're right. It's not. And what I would add to that, I think we're missing the biggest change in the fact there is the level of Scottish player that we had back in those old classic games that Martin's referring to. They've bypassed Rangers now. So as much as we,
but you know what, Ian? And I know that this is kind of different because we had a lot more foreign players in at this point. But we beat PSV 4-1 at Ibrox with Derek McInnes as a defensive midfielder. And we destroyed PSG.
And Derek McInnes was only really used in Europe that season, right? Derek McInnes was used for a specific role, exactly the same way. And I don't like to bring him up on a great platform like this, but Paul Lambert, when he went to Borussia Dortmund, was used for a specific position. That's why they brought him. And that's what he used him for. Didn't play him every week. They used him to do a specific job, and he did that. You can't have players now to just do a specific job because it doesn't. Like we've just been speaking about Casen, right? He basically does 3 jobs. Sterling can play anywhere. You know what I mean? You need players that are really versatile. Like, whereas back then you would say, right, okay, look, you're only going to play a dozen games. Derek McInnes, you'll play in the high-profile games, and that's the job you're going to do. You know what I mean? There was one or two players like that. You know what I mean?
That was just one example of what I'm talking about. Those
Derek
McInnes now.
It was a good example, Martin, but it was kind of the exception to the rule example for 2 reasons. Derek McInnes was surrounded by some quality players from all over the place, right? But my point was that when I say the best Scottish players have passed us by, Scott McTominay couldn't play for Rangers now. Yeah, Billy Gilmore's passed us. Andy Robertson at his best, albeit we all know he's a Celtic fan and you wouldn't want him anyway, maybe. But playing for Liverpool, his weight is past us. Yeah. So the very best Scottish players used to be the case that it was a stick on that they were at Rangers. Not Rangers, Celtic.
Yeah. We're not bringing through the very best Scottish players anymore, and
that's a whole other debate.
We're not going for the very best Scottish players at other clubs anymore.
Yeah. But the problem is,
we didn't bring through Stuart McCall, Ian Ferguson. These guys, they came to us.
But we went and got Ian Ferguson for St Mirren when he was 19. We don't do that anymore.
No, because if we're looking for a player at that sort of level, right, the problem we've got is we're right next door to the biggest cash cow in football, right, and it's the English game, right, not just the Premier League, right. I mean, you've got teams in the English League One, so the third tier, so Birmingham Cities and teams like that, who can outbid us for players and wages and things like that. That's the problem. Look at Ian brought up Billy Gilmore, right? We lost Billy Gilmore at 16 when he signed his first professional contract because Chelsea came in and said, "There's a 4-year contract, $10,000 a week." Yeah. If he'd gone down there and did his cruciate the second training session, he'd still get his $10,000 a week for 4 years. That's nothing to Chelsea. You know what I mean? That's an awful lot. That's a lot of money to us. That's
a very good point to make about the strength. And
2 seconds, right? 2 seconds. It's a very, very good point, right? But see if we had a better track record of bringing through youth players and giving them minutes and then going on to sell them on to bigger clubs. Lennon Miller would have signed for us at the start of the season. Billy Gilmore might have said, "No, do you know what? I'll hold off and I'll get games at Rangers and then I'll move on," instead of making that move to Chelsea. We might have went, even though I said I didn't want him, for a Lewis Ferguson, or a Josh Doig. And they might have went, "Do you know what? I will go to Rangers because I will get minutes and then I will be able to move on for maybe even more money than what I'm going to get if I move on right now." But we don't have a track record of doing it. We just don't do it. So young players in Scotland, like Lennon Miller in the summer there went, no, I don't fancy that. I think I'll stay at Motherwell for another season and then I'll move on. Yeah, that's where we are.
Martin, you're bang on the banana with that. I mean, look at the Lennon Miller one. It's a perfect example because he played in the same youth team as your favourite Rangers youth player, who we brought in and didn't play. You know what I mean? We brought Bailey Rice in. Mm-hmm. He was ahead of Motherwell, arguably, at their academy. And then look now, Lennon Miller's now captain of Motherwell, played 50, 60 games or whatever. And Bailey Rice has played, 20 minutes for us maybe, if you're lucky.
Mm-hmm. And look, Sir Blues, we won't be Ajax. Of course, we will never be Ajax. Very few teams in world football will ever be like Ajax. But we have a young player right now in Finlay Curtis who's banging in the goals and is improving season on season. We have a young Archie Stevens there who was courted by all the top English clubs and decided to come to Rangers. We've got a Bailey Rice sitting there who's getting nowhere near the first team. We've got a Zach Lovelace who made his debut for Ipswich. I think it was Ipswich. Made his debut for them. Millwall, was it Millwall? Sorry. Millwall. Made his debut for Millwall, and we've brought him in, and he's been nowhere near the first team.
Martin, you're right. You're right to highlight that, but I think there's two different subjects here. There's what goes on in our academy, and then our ability to attract the best Scottish player out with Rangers. So it's two separate issues. What goes on in our academy has been needing looked at for quite some time. I don't know.
Niels Coppin effectively admitted it in his interview.
Yeah. Well, I think that falls under his remit now as well, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. I think the academy feeds the academy. The direct reports feed into Niels Coppin now, is my understanding. So he'll have a direct effect on that. But again, that takes time. But in the interim, what do we do with the likes of Bailey Rice and Zach Lovelace? We need to make a decision on these guys, because these guys have flirted with the first team, but not, as you say, been given a decent chance. But I've got to say, when they have had their chance, in particular Zach Lovelace, has he convinced you he's first team material? I can't say he has for me yet. I
just don't know how we expect a young player to come in and from the first second he plays to be the best player in the team.
I get that. But the expectation at Rangers, Martin, the expectation at Rangers is you've got to hit the ground running.
That's where you need a strong manager to go, I'll ride this storm because I know that young player's
well,
going to be
that,
enough.
and some would argue that's what Clement's trying to do now.
Yeah, or I'll give him enough time and see if it doesn't work. I'll take the can for it. I'll take the can for it. But you should be able to bring in. Rangers should have a good enough team, right? That you can bring in one or even two youth players, right, and play them with the players around them and still win games in Scotland. That
Martin,
shouldn't even be a conversation.
Do you have that luxury when you're playing catch up for being behind Celtic for so long?
No, but that's what I mean. We should have a good enough team. But so it's not just one thing that's wrong at the football.
The thing that mystifies me, right? We used to, and okay, it's back to the old. We used to put teams to bed early. You could bring on youth players, right? We've now list 9 substitutes, right? What's this? I don't see why we can't use 2 of those substitute spaces for youth team players. And if by some freak we do, put 3 or 4 past the team with half an hour of the game to go, bring them on to give them the experience. Then if they make a mistake, you get away with it because the game's still won. That's the problem that we've got. I mean, when we listed less subs, we used to list youth players on the bench. Now we've got, we've got 9. You list 9 subs on a match day. We don't list any of the kids. Yeah. They keep telling us that they're training with the first team. That's all very well and good. They're through training with the first team. Give them. They're not playing anywhere else because the B team doesn't play on a weekly basis. They play sporadically. So you've got guys like, we call them young players, Leon King, Robbie Fraser. These guys are in their early 20s now. So they either have to get integrated into the first team squad and on the bench and potentially get minutes if things are going well until, to take the pressure off of starting them, right? Or get rid of them because they're not going to be on.
Do you know, Wilf, I'm glad Martin was mute. He was mute there.
You should be able to start one youth player in this Rangers team against anybody bar Celtic at home and expect to still win comfortably.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, I agree.
You should. I don't care if we're 40 points behind Celtic, 40 points ahead of Celtic. If you're telling me that we can't have one youth player against Ross County at home, then...
Martin, let me put it to you. Which youth player would you use at the moment that's worth a start in every game apart from Celtic at the moment to give it a go?
Well, let's be honest. What I was thinking, right? We are actually the definition we've got of youth players is basically any player under 22, right? Is effectively what we're saying, right? We've got 2 in the middle of the midfield every week, but we didn't bring them up. We brought them through. Mm-hmm. Playing in the midfield now. But we don't consider them youth players because we didn't bring them through. Mm-hmm. That's the problem. We didn't bring Conor Bannon through. We got him on a free transfer.
Yeah, we didn't.
And he's only
so Wilf, as it stands just now, I've just put that to Martin. As it stands just now, give me a couple of youth players that you think that deserve a regular start in the first team.
From what I've seen, and it's not a lot because the B team don't play. They play sporadically, right?
Yeah.
I'd have Finlay Curtis out wide tomorrow without any question. I mean, the guy, as Martin said earlier, he scores goals for fun. He's not a striker. He scored a hat-trick in the last round of the Thrust Trophy against Stenhousemuir. He's not a striker. You know what I mean? He plays wide. He's not a number 9. That's his game. He plays wide. And
I would easily put Finlay Curtis on the left tomorrow and bring Bayrami to the 10 and play 100%. Him behind Igamani or Dessers. Easily.
100%. I've got a theory for the left hand side tomorrow, but we'll get onto that.
Right, okay, right. We shall quickly move on for that because, God, that's 40 minutes already.
I know. I told you, it's us three, mate. It's us three.
Right. I want to touch on something that the manager said in his press conference before we then touch on, obviously, Dundee United. And he was asked about Nils Coppen, Iain, getting this promotion to technical director. And he used some strong language. I think it's probably fair to say. He said it's been strange period for the last few months. The clubs, it's been like there's a vacuum in the club, and it takes a bit of pressure off of him. Now, regardless of what we think about Nils Coppen getting that job or what's above him in terms of a CEO and chairman, etc., when your manager comes out and says that, does that give you any kind of confidence that, well, actually maybe he's not been able to put his full focus on the team? Now he can.
Do you know, I think it's a bit of clever articulation from the manager in that sense, because if you remember a few months back, he actually made it quite clear that it didn't really affect what he did from day to day. But now that we seem to be making a bit of headway, with Coppen's promotion, and I'm assuming there's someone in the wings ready to be the CEO one day, then, it can maybe retrospectively comment on that now, but I've got to say it was interesting to hear him in particular, Martin. I think I spoke to you guys offline about this as well, that there was certain things arriving at his door that he could have done well without, was his words, in so many words. And that's quite interesting to me, because I think again, we talked about this earlier in the season, and my impression was that Philippe Clement was asked to be more than a manager initially. And as much as it may or may not have an impact on what we've seen in the pitch, it certainly wouldn't have a positive one if he had other concerns as opposed to the ones you had to focus on in the pitch. So I think as things seem to be, finding the natural course of things, whereas we're still light a chairman, we're still light a CEO, So as much as we've managed to get, not only did we look as far as Paisley for a potential CEO, we've taken it even more insular, and we've gone within the Ibrox and said, right now you can be technical director, and that seems to have been the course that they've gone to. But my problem on that in particular is that I don't think that the board, I mean, it's okay, people ridicule the board about being antiquated and, dinosaur in their approach and all that kind of stuff. That's one thing.
And they'd be right.
Yeah, absolutely, they'd be right. That's one thing, but not having a network is another. And I don't believe that the Douglas Parks and the John Gilligans of the world are across the right people across the UK and Europe who would know of a relevant CEO or technical director. So therefore, like they did, like the thinking was with the manager, Clement, they've actually said to him, we'll just give you a year's extension. We're going to lean into you because we don't have the network and we don't have the ability to put out feelers into this football world because we don't know anyone. And I think our network is ridiculously small. And I think that's been the issue right from the beginning. So the Coppin promotion doesn't surprise me in any way whatsoever. Doesn't mean it's wrong, by the way. Doesn't mean it's wrong. It might work out for him, but Iain, I just think it's not a surprise.
Do you think if we had a chairman in place, a CEO in place, and a board that was functioning properly, Clement would still be in a job?
Well, I mean, those two things aren't mutually exclusive, are they? But I would say
because the reason I ask is because the way that you've just framed that there's absolutely no way Clement could have been sacked because they wouldn't have had a clue how to replace him.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. His contract extension was unnecessary. It was unnecessary, right? And as much as he touched on today about any speculation, as far as I am aware, the Belgian FA didn't and couldn't entertain Clement for that job. Is my impression, but certainly it was put to him today in the press conference, and he responded to the reporters by saying, "Look, I'm not interested in any other job. I've told that I've purposely extended my stay here at Ibrox in order to rebuild this team."
He basically told Rahman to fuck off.
Well, he kind of, I mean, Rahman was some silly questions like he invariably does. But to be honest, I don't doubt for a second that Clement was committed, but committed to what? That's the bit. Well, from what we're seeing on the pitch at the moment, we're not seeing any drastic improvements. He seems to, his 4-2-3-1 is the unchangeable formation, and he doesn't have a plan B on that. So I've got to say that it's short-sightedness from the board. The board are expect to appoint the correct people in order for your team, the playing staff, to be as competent as they can, and that includes the managed staff. And if you're not in that world, Martin, and I don't believe Douglas Park and John Gilligan are in that world. I firmly believe Peter Lawwell and Dermot Desmond are in that world. I think they're across various clubs all over the UK and Europe. From time served and everything. And I'm pretty sure they didn't appoint external recruitment agents to find their managers. So my point is that I think, well, you're asking me, would Clement have been in situ had we had a fit for purpose board? I'm not sure.
Half an hour ago.
I'm not sure. Half an hour ago. You tell me to labour on. Come on. Usually go for a vape. What happened there?
See if I can go back to the Niels Coppin thing, right?
Yeah.
It strikes me as a bit. It's not really strange because the way we operate, as you say, Iain, we don't have the network of people to bring in you know, at the top of our club to bring in the necessary knowledge. So what they've done is we've increased the remit of a guy who was basically a scout in his previous incarnation with his last club. So do you think, and it's just struck me that this might be the reason they've done it, that they've given Niels Coppin a lot more responsibility and called him a technical director, so that if and when they bring in a CEO and a chairman, and they do have a network of people who can do these jobs, they then release some of the pressure off Niels Coppin and take him back from technical director. They get rid of that position, because we seem to have this thing of inventing positions, because Stuart Robertson was a managing director, and then he was replaced with a CEO. So we're now looking for a CEO. We brought in a technical director, which we've not really had before. You know, from a guy who's still doing his recruitment bit, he's still doing his scouting bit. So, you know, do you think it's possibly that Niels Coppin's been given the technical director name, so that if and when a CEO comes in, the hope's got to be that he knows guys who can do the jobs that come under the technical director's banner at the moment, because we don't know what they are.
Can I just say before Ian answers that, Linda, I hope everything is okay, and I hope you're getting better. I had absolutely no idea. I'm not going to bring it up in case you don't want, obviously, people to see it who maybe aren't in the chat, but I sincerely hope everything's going well with yourself. And yeah, a speedy recovery from myself, Iain, Wilf, and everybody at the Rabble. Absolutely. And also Jason Hart. Hi, Martin and the boys. I've just came to say that Martin B. Harry has had a procedure, an operation today, and I won't know anything else until Tuesday or Wednesday. Martin B. Harry obviously is in your comments a lot. So again, from myself, Iain, Wilf, and everybody at the Rabble, Martin manages to tune in. Speedy recovery, and I hope everything goes well as well. So sorry, Iain, you can carry on with that.
For anybody that is having these sort of issues, we're always just on the end of a DM or a message or whatever. And if you need,
yes,
just need an ear to bend. The boys and girls are always here for you.
Absolutely. Martin, what I must say is Wilf actually muted for me for about 20 seconds during his comments there. So if you can tell me what he said, I'll more than gladly answer it.
Well, I think with it being 47 minutes in, we'll move on from it.
Yeah,
it's a very long question, and I can't remember either. But yeah, everybody ignores your DMs, Gallant. Everybody ignores your DMs. All right, Wilf, I'll come back to you then, seeing as Iain completely ignored you. Dundee United tomorrow, Ibrox. But we mentioned it at the start of the show, but I'm just buzzing that Rangers are back, and I'm looking forward to the game. Can you believe somebody's saying they're looking forward to a Rangers game?
I always look forward to Rangers games, particularly at Ibrox. I mean, you still get the buzz when you walk around the corner and see that wonderful red brick facade. For every time you go, it always gets better and better. It's always a great feeling. A game that we have to win, but then every game's a game we have to win. I mean, asking me to look forward to look to a game and say, give my opinion on it. I'm always Mr. Positive. I always think, we could be playing 1970s Brazil and I'd be expecting Rangers to win. That's just how positive I am about it. But I mean, people are throwing out, the fact that Dundee United are only 3 points behind. There's a 3 point behind us, haven't played a game more, so they're having a decent season, right? But they're not instant. They're not unbeatable. I mean, we beat them 1-0 at Tannadice earlier in the season. Our only away win this season in the league, which is ridiculous. But from memory, we should have beat them an awful lot more than one, because I don't think they were great. We weren't particularly wonderful, but we were still well ahead of them. But yeah, I think the team selection is going to be interesting, particularly with Kasa. With Kasa not there, it's will he play the captain? Personally, I think he will, because I don't think he trusts Sterling. Certainly doesn't trust his fitness. But as I said to you earlier, I've got a theory what he might do on the left hand side. Now, if you saw the afternoon Rabble, I suggested Rabbi Matondo come in, but it turns out in the press conference that Rabbi Matondo has got a knock. He's another one of these players that seems to get the littlest little niggle for anything, and he's out for, it's nothing serious, but how long is he going to be out? I mean, he's only just
he played in the game on Tuesday against Motherwell, didn't he? Yeah. And he's trained as well, but he's got a slight niggle.
Yeah. So, what I mean? Is he going to be one of these players who will only play if he feels 100%? But I said then I expected Matondo to be wide left. So here's one for you then, Iain. Is this possible? Manager won't do it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, manager won't do it, because we know the manager won't do it, right?
Yeah.
we've got to play Bajrami in the 10, particularly with Lawrence not playing because he likes to play Lawrence in there. So for me, Bajrami's got to play in the 10. So we need somebody else wide left because obviously Sherney's going to be wide on the right. So he's told us that Ridvan Yilmaz is back in contention and available for selection. So do you play Ridvan Yilmaz at left back and put Jefty up on the left wing?
No, I see your thinking, Wilf. But to me, Matondo and Yilmaz, I think we need to move on from them a wee bit, to be honest. I mean, Yilmaz has been here, 2 years? And I've not seen enough is it more than that? Is it? No, it can't be 3 years. Is it? No, it can't be 3. But anyway, it was the best part of £5-6 million quid, was he? Yeah. So yeah, to me, I think Yilmaz and Matondo are kind of surplus to requirements. Might not be.
Yeah, but Ian, why I don't think he would do that, because I think he would do that. But why he won't is because Yilmaz is just back from injury and hasn't got any.
Yeah, and he's not good form.
No chance he starts.
Yeah, he's the manager's not good form for playing players that have just returned from injury instantly. Which again, I'm not completely, at home to Dundee Utd. You think, well, come on, he's a £6 million player here. What can he not handle? But it's interesting you mention that, Wilf. But I just think he's going to persist with Bajrami on the left for now.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, but he's not one that changes his formation. Certainly not his formations, and more so his personnel that much. So I think we'll see Bajrami starting the left. I think we'll see Jefty still playing left back, to be honest. Which I'm actually okay about, because I'm not a big Yilmaz fan. I just don't think Yilmaz is strong enough or good enough to be our left back, and I think Jefty's proven that in the main. I think he's been a better left back for us than Yilmaz has, and Jefty's still very much in his early stages of his career. But
can I throw something at Ian quickly, just while we're discussing this, because I agree with Jock. See if that is the case. I'm moving Jefty forward. I would have Robbie Fraser in there before Yilmaz.
That's what I was going to say. See, when I asked you both, who would you include in the youth? For me, the youth team into the first team, it would be Robbie Fraser. But I know that creates
him over Jefty, because Jefty.
I know that creates a Jefty problem, but I would certainly get him minutes. Certainly get him minutes. And if you're asking Jefty to motor up the pitch as he often does, why can't Robbie Fraser come in and grab that last half hour, 20 minutes?
I completely agree.
To me, Robbie Fraser makes sense.
That Jock Blue's reading my notes, because I've got Robbie Fraser's name written down here. He was my next protocol. So I think Jock Blue's.
But Wolf, 100% agree. If that is the case, that was because he said today as well that Cortez will be back next week, which means that he'll be back training next week, which means that he'll be back playing in about 6 months. But if it is the case of pushing Jefty forward, because we don't have anybody else to play out left, if Yilmaz gets a game before Robbie Fraser, for me, that's sacrilege, man. That is really that is a manager who is not willing to play youth, if that's the case.
As you pointed out in the comments by Helder, Robbie Fraser's not a youth anymore. Robbie Fraser's older than he's older than Jefty and Yilmaz. Robbie Fraser's about 23. I'm not even sure Robbie Fraser still qualifies to play in the B team, because because of the rules that they've got for
I don't know. If we were stuck in the Lowland League, he could have, I think. But
there's Aldo in the comments saying that Robbie Fraser's actually older than Jefty, is he?
And Yilmaz. Wow. And Yilmaz. But I watched the training video today, and I didn't see Cole McKinnon, but I did see Robbie Fraser, I did see Lowry, I did see Bailey Rice. Was all in that training video. Doesn't mean anything though, to be honest.
Yeah, I watched that.
I know that all the time, that the youth players are in training with the first team, but we never see them. As I said earlier, you list 9 players on the bench. How can 2 of them not be two or 3 of them not be kids every week? You know what I mean? I mean, look at last week. He had Hadji on the bench probably because he had to, and brought on Kieran Dow.
Yeah, that was an odd one.
You're just a goal against Hearts to tie the game up, because you don't like.
I've had issue with Clermont's substitutions all season, to be honest. All season.
Well, against Hearts, one slip in your arses and parcel, and he brings on Kieran Dow.
And Aldo's asking if Lovelace was training today. I don't know, is the honest answer. I never seen.
To be honest, Martin, that video you're talking about, the first 5 minutes was watching the keepers do keepy ups.
I know. That's how sad my days are. That's what I'm sitting watching. Back to the game tomorrow, then, Ian, what are we expecting Ibrox to be like? Because Rangers have been away for a while. It's Dundee United, a team that there's some nice people at Dundee United. Very few.
Well, I was going to ask, do we note of that today? Are you, where's your allegiances tomorrow, Martin? Did I ask
you? I will come to your door and punch you right in the face.
You've been punching that whole Dundee United patter with us all season now,
No, but, there's one or two nice people at Dundee United.
Aye. And your brother plays where? Exactly.
In his back garden. That's what
I know. In fact, you're going to the game tomorrow now, aren't you? What side are you sitting at? but I don't expect any problems tomorrow. I don't think we're great still, but I don't think we'll have a problem. I think we'll be 2 or 3-0 against Dundee United is my gut feel.
Well, see, I'm in training tomorrow because I need to start going to every Rangers Dundee United game in case my brother gets into the first team. Because if he scores a winner against us, I can't do the reaction. That would just never. But in terms of team selection, Ian, are we expecting the manager to throw us any curveballs tomorrow?
I don't think so. I mean, he may. Would he do? He has been known to rest internationals that have been away. Mm-hmm. So we may see. Would you give Souttar a wee break and put in Balogun? I certainly wouldn't. But I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here and think, well, who would you rest? Certainly would appear Czerny starting. After his interview today, he didn't give us any indication otherwise. I don't think there'll be any great shocks. I think Tav will still be there. And would you call it?
You think Tav now, obviously with Kasa gone, that's took away any conversation about who starts at right back?
Well, I mean, my assumption is that Sterling is the natural replacement there. Why else would we give the guy a 4-year contract for him to sit on the bench?
For the rest of this season, do you honestly think that it's a choice between Sterling and Tav? The manager's picking Sterling.
I think he's going to have to lean into Sterling a wee bit more. I think he is. You know what I mean? Because Tav's been found out time and time again. So I think that position will be shared for the rest of the season with a view for Sterling to making it his own come the end of the season.
Who starts tomorrow? Sterling or Tav?
I'm going to say Tav. I'm going to say Tav because I know what the manager's like. I think he'll just start with Tav. I just do. What do you think, Wilf?
I think Tav starts tomorrow. Big question is who starts up front. Because but do you keep Dessers for Thursday? Because obviously Danilo can't play on Thursday because he's not. He starts
Dessers. I would bet my mortgage on it, Wilf, that Dessers starts tomorrow.
Dessers will start, and he'll come off with a view for Thursday in mind, Wilf. I think maybe. Depends how the game goes, but it'll certainly. If we go up 2 or 3-0 and it's 60 minutes gone, Dessers will get pulled off. Mega Man will come on, or maybe Danilo. Remember that guy, Danilo? Remember him?
I wouldn't be saying anybody's getting pulled off, Ian, just in case that wee bit gets clipped. You know what I mean? Just in case that gets clipped. But I would fully expect. Well, my voice keeps breaking. I don't know. It normally happens to you when about 12 or 13, but 35 seems to be the new voice breaking age. Do we expect to see Danilo, regardless of if it's 0-0, if it's 1-0, if it's 6-0, if it's 1-0 to Dundee United, do we expect to see Danilo starting to get more minutes now, Will?
Well, that's what I expect. So that's why I would hope he starts him tomorrow. Because you can start him and say, right, okay, go and give us what you've got. You can't play on Thursday, so just go out there, run yourself into the ground because you cannot play midweek anyway. So let's see what you've got. Give us as much as you can for as long as you can. And if you last an hour, you bring Dessers on after an hour, or you bring Ingemani on after an hour. If it's half time, you bring him on at half time. But Danilo has to get minutes, and he has to get a lot of. And the only way you can see how fit a player is to start him and see how long he lasts. Because if you're saying to Danilo, right, you're getting the last 20 minutes, then you know you're only giving him 20 minutes, and he knows he's only getting 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. You have to start him. So I'm not the manager. That's probably why I'm not the manager. But I mean, yeah, I'd like to see Danilo start. I haven't agree with you guys. I think Dessers will start, but particularly with Thursday night in mind, because Thursday night's massive. Because if we can get a result on Thursday, and I don't want to look too far ahead from tomorrow because it is one game at a time. But if we can get a result on Thursday, any kind of positive result on Thursday, that takes the pressure right off going into the last 3 European games, because we're more or less effectively qualified then. So he can then mess about with squad. And on Europe, another thing that I wondered, and it's not for just now because we're running out of time, right? But the European thing, up to this season, the group stage finished at the end of December, right? Then you had the January transfer window, right? This group stage league thing that we're in doesn't finish at the end of January. See if you sign a player in the January window, can you bring him into your European squad?
I think you can make 3 replacements.
Can you?
Yeah, you can make.
I don't know if they'll tweak that, but that's a question for another day, because I do have one more point I want to finish on. Iain, the manager spoke today about Yanis Hadji being out on international duty, and it was good for him to get some minutes. Referring to that he may be used in the squad, do we expect to see Yanis Hadji at any point tomorrow?
Do you know, I found that a really interesting comment to take away from that.
Really interesting question. Oh, forget it.
That's just, I actually found that I was quite surprised when the manager highlighted that, because I get the impression he wasn't particularly a Hadji fan as such, but he certainly highlighted him in his interview. And all of the talk of late recently is about Hadji potentially leaving in January windows and all that kind of stuff. So I think from his comments, we may see him feature. I think, I think it looks like he may bring him on at some point. And to be honest, why would you not? Why would you not? We've got, as Wilf rightly pointed out, we've got Thursday night in mind. So I think I would, and to be honest, I would be quite happy to see Hadji feature at some point against Dundee United. It's well within his capabilities and his skill set to make an impact against them at Ibrox. Why would you not? And if it's about
sorry, on you go, Ian, finish it.
If it's about resting guys like Bajrami or whoever he may replace, then I'm an absolute fan for that. But I just want to say, Gallant made a really good point there about Danilo, because here we are not talking about a £6 million centre forward again. I don't think Clement's that sold in Danilo either. I don't think
we shall wait and find out. But that's a topic maybe for the reaction.
An afternoon rabble.
Or the afternoon rabble, yeah. Well, I will be very, very disappointed, and I'll leave this as the final word to you. If Czerny, the manager, goes, right, Czerny, you've done your job, off you come, and he puts on Kieran Dowell instead of Hadji, I think that might just end me.
Yeah, I said in the afternoon ramble that it wouldn't surprise me if he rested Czerny, because he's played, he's played two international games in the break, and as Iain rightly said, he's got a habit of resting players who have played too many minutes, etc., etc., etc. Then he wheels them out for the press conference, which would make you think that he's definitely going to start him. Yanis Hadji, I'd expect to see at some point, because again he's not in the European squad, so I'd expect to see him at some point tomorrow. But then again, we expected to see Yanis Hadji against Hearts. He brought on Kieran Dowell. Not that I'm throwing Kieran Dowell under a bus, but what I mean, they've got different skill sets, and what we needed at that time was a Yanis Hadji on the park. He might start Hadji in the 10, which means you start Bajrami out wide left. I'm desperate to see Bajrami do for us what he does internationally, and playing in the 10 to see what he can actually bring to us. Which begs the question: if he does that, does he start Hadji wide? Because that wouldn't be the first time that had happened. You know what I mean? So,
well, if Czerny comes off and he brings Dowell on at right wing instead of Hadji, I'll be raging. But Jim Sloan with a super chat right at the last minute. Thank you very much, Jim. Make Rangers great again. Follow, lads. It's not up to us to make Rangers great again, Jim. It's up to the board and the manager. And let's sincerely hope that can happen. Right, okay, doke, gents. That is us. Time up. It's time to go. Can I just say a big, massive thank you, everybody. If you haven't, and you're watching on YouTube and you haven't gave it a like yet, please do. If you haven't subscribed to the show on YouTube, please do. If you're watching on Facebook or Twitter, like, share, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff as well. And if you want to help support the podcast further, then you can do so by becoming a member. The link for memberships are in the description. You just pick the tier that you fancy, and you can get access to extra members content, priority response to comments. If you're a well-behaved person, you can get access to the Discord group. There's loads of benefits, loads of extra shows. So thank you very much. And a massive thank you again to Jim Sloan as well, who always helps to support the show. So thank you very much, Jim. Iain, Wilf, thank you very much. Alex and Connor will be on your watch along tomorrow for members. So if you are a member, make sure that you join them. And the action will go on tonight.
And just at that Martin's internet gives up the ghost. He's been doing so well with that dodgy internet, but he just gives up the ghost as he's saying goodnight. So, on behalf of everybody here, watch along tomorrow, obviously just before the game starts. None of the three of us on it because we'll all be at the game, thankfully. And we'll catch you all later.
See you guys.
Cheers, guys.